Welcome to Leaders in Focus, where today we're joined by Amazon Prime Video's European Sports Chief, Alex Green.
He'll be reflecting on 5 years of broadcasting the Premier League.
We started to see these comments, I really like this, Amazon is showing this way, and we started to feel, we're actually, this is working, it's a fabulous feeling.
He'll be talking tactics around the negotiating table.
This is not about staring down contests or about smoky rooms.
And he'll also be giving us his big ticket items for 2024.
The biggest thing happening in my world will be the launch of our Champions League service in the UK.
Alex, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Right back from the US from last week, Black Friday games, the NFL for the first time ever. What is your view of how that went and how Black Friday played into it all?
Well, it was a privilege to be there Thanksgiving weekend in New York to watch the Jets against the Dolphins and to see our own production. It was actually the first time I'd seen one of our own NFL productions, so it was a great eye-opener for me. Seeing the scale of operation was impressive. The size of the trucks, the number of people, the sheer infrastructure around broadcasting an NFL game is awesome. And the whole production took on an extra dimension. I mean, I could see we were in the parking lots and there was a lot of turkey and, tailgate action, as they say. So we made it into a big thing, and I hope, and I'm sure the team out there who are running it really want this now to become an annual tradition in the US. We're now into the second year, actually, of it, and I think they are absolutely thrilled with how it's going. I mean, the audiences seem to keep growing year on year. The familiarity with Thursday Night Football being on Amazon just grows. I also believe the audiences are younger on average than the sort of traditional NFL viewing audience. So in general, I think the whole company is super happy with how it's gone and very excited for the next 10 years or so. It's a long deal.
Shifting over to the UK in the Premier League, we're about to kick off, sitting here in the first week of December. We've got Amazon games this week.
Yep.
How has it gone so far, and what were the original aims?
This has been an amazing partnership for us, a really great event that way back in 2019 was a kind of a turning point for Amazon in terms of how we understood about sport and what it could do for Prime, how we could deliver it really well for viewers. I think it's fair to say there were a lot of nerves, there was a lot of caution when we first did it. It was really the first time that a major top-tier football property had been shown exclusively on a streaming service. So it was a big test for the company, both from a customer and a viewer perspective in terms of showing a full fixture round, which was a new thing. And people loved that. They loved the flexibility, flicking from one game to another, the production values we put into it. And also, actually, from a business perspective, it was tremendously successful. It was the biggest acquisition of Prime members events that we'd ever had in the UK. And it really provided the foundation then for going on to invest significantly more in major tentpole sports around the world.
What's it like as a leader in an organisation, in a broadcast organisation that takes tentpole rights in a country, and inevitably the marketing around that is going to be about bigger, bolder, better. It always happens, right, when a broadcaster changes. But you've just mentioned nerves within the organisation, a sense of this is a big challenge from a streaming perspective. We don't want to mess it up. How do you balance those two things?
Yeah, I'm not sure our approach was going bigger and bolder. I think we've always had, actually, believe it or not, quite a humble approach to the way that we broadcast sport and how we want to deliver. We never really wanted our brand to get in the way. We wanted really to bring viewers as close to the action as possible. That was always the objective and remains so. I mean, I remember, I think on the midnight of the first midweek game, the equivalent of this Wednesday, we had both the Merseyside derby and Man United against Tottenham. Two big games to stream simultaneously. And a bunch of other games as well that evening. And we carried it off. It just proved to ourselves and the industry that these major events can be delivered through streaming services, and also that we can offer some additional benefits, the flexibility of watching on any device, the actual streaming quality itself that we continue to work at behind the scenes, some little features that we introduced that went down very well. And as I say, the tone, the feel of our production as well, being very pitch side, being very interactive, very close to the action, very engaging. That was all part of our approach, and yeah, it went down well.
When we're looking at that sort of Amazon production and the points of difference, we've got 6 of the 10 games from this sort of first round of December games played concurrently.
Yeah.
How are your team working to deliver that to fans in a way that enhances the viewing experience or in a way that's seamless?
Yeah, we do. And the good thing is that we are now into the 5th year. So we are confident in how we do it. And that allows us to continue to try new things. For example, last year we brought 2 managers together who sort of interviewed each other, which was fun.
And we're joined for the start by not 1, but 2 of the managers tonight, in Thomas Frank and Graham Potter. Lovely to see all of you.
We'll continue to try new things because we have that level of confidence, I think, now that the basic streaming service will work. We've introduced innovations along the way, things like Stadium FX, where you can actually take away the commentary and just listen to the stadium atmosphere. We have our X-ray service, which allows real-time stats and highlights from the match. We've actually recently introduced a service called Rapid Recap, which we've introduced on our Champions League football, which allows, if you're coming in late to a game, you can immediately catch up on big moments that have happened during the game. And by the way, that's all driven by AI, by machine learning. So it doesn't need manual intervention, it's just generated. So we'll continue to innovate, both within the production and with our features. But at the heart of it really is, as I say, getting people close to the action and providing it in supremely high quality in terms of the picture, the sound, the latency, by the way, as well, which is something that we are improving all the time. We're very proud, actually. We now can offer ultra-low latency on a whole range of devices, less than 10 seconds from stadium to screen, which for streaming always used to be much more of a challenge, but now we feel we're making huge progress in that.
When you talk about those innovations, how would you say you're finding that these are received? Because they all sound fantastic and brilliant new ways to develop things, but we know that football fans and sports fans can be quite traditionalist. If something changes, all of a sudden I want it the way it used to be. How are you finding that's received?
Look, from day one, actually, our Premier League coverage has been received really well. It was pretty amazing on social media how well people responded, not only to the concept of a full fixture round, but also to how we were delivering that. And I think one of the main sentiments you would have seen on social was, look, I wish Amazon could have more, could offer more of this, because the flexibility, the convenience, and frankly, let's face it, also the value of being able to get Premier League football within your Prime membership, was seen as and is seen as huge value for our Prime members.
The machine learning aspects that you touched on, and that catch-up service is incredible. It's personalised. So you switch on, suddenly a kind of bespoke robot director has produced a package of highlights just for you. Does that technology come from deep within the kind of Amazon system, or is that, is that a benefit that you can draw on kind of from HQ almost?
Well, Amazon does have a huge resource in terms of its engineering and tech, and yes, it's a privilege being at the sort of sharp end in terms of the customer end of being able to draw on that base of resource, and everyone in the company is focused on how to bring that technology to make it useful and enhance the customer experience. So yes, we have lots of people working on things like machine learning, AI, and the whole chain, the whole value chain, in terms of both the features, the actual delivery of the stream from end to end, the encoding, the encryption, and everything. So yeah, it's wonderful to have that, and it's also a very global resource. So that powers our NFL in the US, or for example, our baseball in Japan, as well as our football in Europe.
Mm-hmm. When you're thinking about USPs that Amazon can bring to the coverage of a particular sport, it strikes me that what you've got under the bonnet at Amazon is the real differentiating factor. Like, how do you work with different kind of departments within Amazon to bring something completely different to what you're doing in sport?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things in that. One is very much the cultural aspect where everyone in Amazon, whether you're in tech or sales or marketing or wherever, you are very customer obsessed. So it's not as if all my colleagues in the tech area are not thinking about how this technology is being delivered at the front end to customers. So culturally, we're all very aligned to that. But I'd also say that the sport now has become a very big part of what Prime Video is. It's become a pillar, if you like, of Prime Video in the territories where we have a tentpole sport. And therefore, it's not very hard getting the attention of the tech and the operations people to really, help this part of the service. It's a really important part now of what we offer in a lot of territories.
Fifth season now of the Premier League broadcast, of course, and you mentioned how that's allowed you and your team to move forward with a lot of confidence. I'm interested in how that's folded into your wider football strategy and how it's differed from, for example, broadcasting the Champions League in Italy or Germany. Yeah,
I mean, as I say, it was a really important step along the way to proving to ourselves that we could handle the biggest events and we could actually, in some areas, I think, improve on the experience in those events. So, the Premier League will always have that sort of soft spot, if you like, certainly in my heart and across the company. But yes, I mean, Champions League has been an amazing package of rights for us that has clearly worked in Germany and Italy, not least because of the fact we've just renewed those deals. And also we've now, we're looking forward next year to launching our Champions League broadcasting in the UK. We have a very similar package. It's one top pick game every week that's included in your Prime membership. And so we kind of know how that works. We know the impact on our customers, on our Prime members, and also on our business. So we're super excited by that. And the Champions League, one of the big differences, I guess, versus the Premier League is this is season long. This is a game every match week of the Champions League, all the way through to the semi-finals. And actually, the new format of the Champions League from next year, I think, will provide even better clashes earlier on in the group stages. So, the Champions League has been a great property. But, it's not just those. Having the credibility in many ways, from the Premier League to then be able to be entrusted with France's national or, world tennis tournament, Roland Garros, is a rare thing, actually, for that to be given to, if you like, a company based from outside of France. The Premier League, I think, very much gave us a lot of that credibility with new federations, not necessarily even offering the same sport, but being able to show that we could handle these things, and has led to now this much more diverse portfolio that we have today.
You touched a little bit earlier on latency, obviously a huge question when we talk about streaming, and something that I guess maybe criticised fairly unfairly.
Yeah.
What would you say to the people who sort of still have that as a big question, and what improvements are being made from your side to improve latency?
Yeah, well, as I hinted, I mean, actually, we've made some huge strides on latency. And yes, you're right. I mean, I do remember a few years ago, people would comment that they'd hear their neighbour down the street, shouting if there was a goal. That's largely becoming neutralized now because of this, ultra low latency we're able to offer. The other thing, incidentally, is if you're on an ultra low latency device, no one's going to get it quicker with you. That's exactly the same time for all those devices. So again, you won't get that even slight advantage or spoiler, in watching the action. So
what qualifies as ultra low?
Below 10 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, that's even quicker than some traditional forms of TV distribution through satellite cable, etc. So it really is at least as good now, the streaming. So yes, that's what we've been doing on latency.
I once watched a football game with a tech journalist he was watching on a big screen in a pub, and then he had 4 or 5 different devices open in front of him with different services, and he was writing down different levels of latency and when there was buffering and all of this sort of stuff. And it's absolutely mind-boggling that someone can care that much, but also that someone tracks it like that. When you watch Premier League, well, do you watch?
Of course I watch it, yes.
And how do you watch? Do you have a little, are you frantically WhatsApping people saying, you've got the score wrong, or, the production doesn't feel quite right, or do you take a step back and just enjoy?
Yes, no, enjoy. There's always a part of me that's really wants to stay on it and see exactly how it's going. I mean, it's hard when you have so many games on a night, then although I'm very tempted to be. I mean, we're showing Man United Chelsea on the same night as 5 other games. I would typically have gone there, being a long-suffering Man United fan. But no, I mean, it's far easier to keep track of everything. So I'll actually either be in our sort of studio operation with our partners, or actually watch from home, where I've got at least 3 devices open. I'll have my big screen, I'll have my laptop, and I'll have my phone as well. But I'll keep flicking across and seeing what's going on.
Would you describe yourself as a production guy or a tech guy? Like, what are you most sort of picking up?
Oh, well, that's right. I'm more of a business guy. I hate to say it.
So you're like, time is money.
I hate to say it. That's really my background, to be fair. I mean, don't get me wrong, and my production team probably hate the fact that I interfere like I do. But anyway, I love, having a say on the production side and indeed on the tech side. I mean, I think on the tech side, obviously, a lot of the tech is kind of beyond my natural knowledge, but I've very much been a product guy actually through the years, and with other companies as well. So I feel I can become a bit obsessive about the customer experience, and I'm really picking up on anecdotes as well as data. Well, one of the great things at Amazon is we do have this thing where it's not just data. Everyone thinks Amazon's very data driven. It's not just data, it is the anecdotes you hear from your family, from your friends, from you. How are you watching, what's going wrong, and everything there has to be captured. And is that a real problem, or is that just almost like a personal or an in-home problem? And so I feel that very instinctively is really sitting with the customer and understanding how those journeys work and how easy are they.
How do you process setbacks or failure, both personally and then, how do you filter that through professionally?
I instinctively become more determined. I definitely respond perhaps too quickly to sort of say, how do we fix it? How do we get this right the next, Sometimes it's worth taking a little bit more time to learn from it, but it never floors me. It never really drags me down into a low. It almost gives me energy. It gives me strength, I think. I always think, that was obvious. Of course, we'll do it that way next time. Let's use that. So. And we have had setbacks. Certainly in some of the early days when the whole streaming infrastructure, and frankly when we knew less about what we were doing, and there were definitely issues, and it was painful. It was painful, but we rapidly improved, and I loved that, and it's very much that's how I work as well.
We're in the era of Spotify Wrapped, Strava recaps, these sort of services that present the year that you've just had, using whatever the service is that you've used. If we were going to do a service like that for you, for the 8 years that you've had at Amazon Prime so far, what is in the Alex Green Amazon Prime Wrapped?
I'm not sure it'll be the biggest hit on Spotify or TikTok, but it would be for me. I'd watch it. The big moments, highs and lows. I mean, certainly, as I say, I think those early days of tennis, the US Open, our first US Open tennis was difficult. It was very stressful. I was in New York. I was spending part of the first day in the parking lot on my phone, trying to understand what was going on from a tech perspective. Also, dealing with the USTA. It was a fabulous partner, by the way, very patient with us, but fronting up really for the company to them to explain what was going on back in the UK with their tennis coverage. But then the second year of doing that was so much better, and things started to improve really generally from there. The Premier League with the following year was really a high point for me personally, and for the company. I remember there was a moment in that middle Wednesday, we had all these games going on, and we started to see these comments. Yeah, I really like this. Amazon is showing this, right? And we started to feel, we're actually, this is working. It's a fabulous feeling. And then doing some interesting deals. But I think overall, it's been seeing this continual improvement, and the Champions League is probably the best example of that. This continual improvement. I mean, some of these games we show, for example, in Germany. We had over 4 million households tune into the Man City Bayern game. I mean, the Premier League, we had over 4 million viewers for the Arsenal Man City game. So we're getting these big, and you can see it growing year after year. So, and if anything, the comments only become more positive. So seeing that that positive momentum gives me a great feeling.
And what do those periods feel like? Obviously now in December,
Yeah.
2 sort of loads of Premier League games. What does it look like for you the average day when everything's in full flow? Has it got harder over the years with more expectation? Has it got easier as you sort of become more familiar with the way things go?
It's become, it's wonderful that whereas before there was a lot of stress because of things I wasn't direct. It was hard for me to fully control, like the tech, like the whole streaming infrastructure and stuff. So, that obviously is very stressful and in the early days. And that's, it's never been totally solved, but it's a lot better now. It's a lot better now. And therefore, I think some of the good things that I deal with are more around the sort of business challenges. I mean, sport's not cheap. We have to justify it every time. Rights have become more expensive, particularly, for example, our Champions League renewals. And therefore, just like with any business, I put myself under pressure to make sure we're delivering what those expensive rights, need. But I think really overall, actually, what a good day looks like is when I really feel the team where everyone knows what they're doing, they're in the zone, they're focused. And you can feel that on game day, actually, when people just know what they're doing. And I'm not just talking about in the production side, but in tech, in operations, even on our PR, our marketing. There's a sense of both knowing what we're doing and a sense of excitement because we're on top of it. And I love that feeling. And then it hopefully allows me to say hi to people, to wander around. I mean, it's a great privilege being able to wander pitch side and speak to Thierry Henry or Clarence Seedorf or these amazing players, and or our partners at UEFA or the French League or in the Premier League. I mean, that's fabulous. And so a good day for me is that it's wandering around when I know everyone's kind of on it and we're going to do a great job.
A question about negotiation and how you like to do it. How do you like to do it, and what do you want your counterparts to come with as well?
Actually, this is not about staring down contests or about smoky rooms, it's really about the work beforehand. It's about knowing where your limits are, what can you justify economically, and thinking through what are the dynamics here? What are other people likely to bid? What do you think they're interested in? How can you read some of the signs you can see in the press or wherever? But really being super clear beforehand. What's your strategy? Where are you willing to go? And there's a bit of instinct to it as well. Obviously, the ideal is you want to end up bidding just very slightly more than someone for the exact package you want. And I'm actually happy to say that it doesn't always happen, but it's happened in quite a few cases for us.
Surely the ideal is if you bid slightly lower than others and the rights holder opts to give it to you anyway because you're such a great partner.
Yes. I think, to be fair, that possibly applied more first time around for Amazon because everyone loved the idea of Amazon now entering, and maybe we can find a way. But no, I mean, in reality, we're part of the scene now, and of course, and if I was a sports rights body, I would want to get the maximum revenue as long as the person bidding, was able to do a good job. And
Yeah. You talked earlier about the kind of ramp into rights acquisition, starting off as a channels business, and then why don't we go? The opportunities come up, let's go for them. Yeah. Now you're an established broadcaster in lots of different sports broadcaster in lots of different markets around the world. How are you building your rights portfolio now? What buttons do you need to press before you decide to go for a bid? And how are you is it the same ROI you're putting on all different kind of rights packages that you have?
Well, we are, the quick answer is we're very, very selective. So there are lots of hoops things need to go through. There is a bit of a misconception that, Amazon has unlimited resources and of course could bid for whatever. But no, the properties have to pass a whole series of tests in terms of availability and how do we think this would work with our Prime membership? Can we fit it economically into Prime in that country? Is Prime in that country more in a growth phase or is it in a stable phase, but we need a way to engage members and improve retention, for example? So whilst there's a basket of metrics that we do use across different territories, the relative importance of those does vary, and it depends on where Prime and where Amazon is there. And yes, and then of course it's the sport itself. And do we think, actually, frankly, we can do at least as good, if not a better job than viewers are already getting. And we always set ourselves that bar. We really want to improve. We don't want to just do, oh, well, let's take over the rights and we'll do the same job. We always want to push and do a better job. So it means we're very selective. I say this to people, I spend most of my time saying no to things, sadly. I'd love to, do more and more. But in reality, we have to be selective. And, certainly having a big anchor sport in a territory, we've seen does great things for our service, and actually also then allows us to offer more and more selection through these third-party partners as well. An exclusive sport can bring viewers in, and then they can explore, oh, you also have this channel, and that's a really nice way for us to offer this selection, but without having to try and fit everything into the Prime membership.
Rights values are rising at the top,
yeah,
stalling along the middle and dropping off elsewhere. What would you say your top-line view is on the direction of travel for traditional sports right media?
It has grown, obviously, over the last, decade or more overall. But yes, I think you've seen, certainly in a lot of the domestic football leagues that I know well, you have seen a certain sort of flattening off or plateauing. The Champions League property, and again, credit to UEFA actually in coming up with their new format, has had this additional lift, and it's a super competition. It really is. So I think the top tier properties will always carry that premium level, and I don't think you'll see a sort of crash in value there. But we all know, all the broadcasters and other sorts of services know that it's the top tier properties that are the ones that really change behaviour, and so there's high competition for them. And I think there are some interesting newer models for some of the more niche sports and a lot of the challenge there is how can you manage the production in a very cost efficient way. So things like using AI to be able to cover matches with an unmanned camera. So I've seen this in operation for sort of low leagues, and I think that's super interesting. And then maybe having more of an advertising or even a sponsorship-driven service. So that's a world away from top-tier rights driving a whole bundle of products. So I think you will get this increasing spectrum actually of business models. It won't be you're either in a sports pay TV bundle or you're a free-to-air service. I think there will be this range now of commercial models. But yeah, I think where we're focused at the moment certainly is some of those big tentpole rights, which we know drive. And Prime is a big service in these territories. We need the sorts of properties that cut through and resonate with a high proportion of that base. We're a very broad-based service, and therefore we do need those wide, nationally interested sports.
One of the bits we always come back to when we talk about sports broadcast or sports content more broadly is consumption habits, especially amongst Generation Z and Generation Alpha. How at Prime Video are you seeing the landscape change, and how are you positioned to sort of take advantage or capitalise on how it's changing?
Yeah, I think what's definitely changed, and actually I'm proud of some of the things we've done in this regard, is the wider story around these sports, the personalities, the backstories, the behind-the-scenes coverage, either on social media or on documentaries, like our All or Nothing series. So some of the feature movies we've offered, like our new one on Ronnie O'Sullivan, which is great. Wayne Rooney, Ben Stokes, So I think there's much more interest in the wider story around these live events. A lot of it has been driven by younger demographics, even though actually you see the popularity of some of these shows, it extends across the age range. But I think now you do have to, in order to resonate with those younger groups, you have to offer some of that wider story and also really use social media, obviously, clips, funny moments. We use social media influencers at most of our big events. They're able to capture those unique things that you just don't see in a sort of classic lean back broadcast way, and that's super important for those generations. What I don't really, a lot of people say, well, is long form sport just going to die, or do formats have to? I'm not convinced by that. I think what is true is that there's definitely more multitasking while the long-form sport's on. People be on their phones, of course, but people still love the story of a great Premier League match, or even, dare I say, a Test match over 4 or 5 days. There's still amazing sport there that you can get wrapped up in, but at the same time, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on around that live, covered event that I think you increasingly have to participate in as a broadcaster.
One final question, Alex. What do you want to achieve next year?
Next year?
Yeah, one big thing professionally, one big thing personally.
Oh. Well, look, professionally, I think probably the biggest thing happening in my world will be the launch of our Champions League service in the UK. So that I want to launch well. I want people to say, wow, that is, we are so thrilled that those games are on Amazon. Personally, what do I want to achieve? I'd love to be able to catch a proper green wave when I'm surfing, not just the white stuff. So.
Okay, well, yeah, your wish is my command.
Thank you.
Alex Green, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much. Thanks.